the specific context of Indian reality. Therefore, what he studied, what he learned, he tried to contextualize in Indian context. And then, what he did, his creative thought applied in interpreting Western notions in the light of India's social and structural realities. Morning, I was delivering a talk to Central University of Kashmir. 1 hour talk, it went on very good, wonderful. Unfortunately, I was talking about again, a form of, democracy. The Vice Chancellor, came and gave last remarks, which I literally felt very disappointed. I didn't get a chance to, engage with Vice Chancellor because they winded up the session. Instead of it would have been a dialogical form. So the Vice Chancellor said that, look, the democratic principles was there as part of Indian tradition, knowledge system, Indian tradition, Vedic tradition. But he forgot to tell that the basic democratic principles started with the idea of Buddhism, the Sangha. So how in contemporary times, the caste fundamentalists, the communal fundamentalists are trying to reinterpret the ideas of democracy, Ambedkar, or many other things. Therefore, the agency need to be protected by the Ambedkarites and challenge that, look, you are trying to tarnish the ideological framework of Ambedkarism as an ideology. So therefore, I frame Buddhism, liberalism, and feminism as the base for Ambedkarism, which is necessary for the contemporary times. No other, I can challenge, I can say that Ambedkarism doesn't speak about only Dalit rights or, untouchability and many other things. Ambedkarism talks about the holistic perspective of the range of issues, not one or two. If you read his entire volumes, you will see him or his ideas which talks or which is necessary. And it is these ideas are living ideas even till today. If he spoke about, the dictatorship and the hereditary rule in 1952, cautioning that the democracy will be in danger, if we don't set the condition, president the condition that we should prevent these dictators and the hereditary rule, which we have witnessed and we are witnessing. 1970 we have witnessed dictatorship, and 2024 we are witnessing dictatorship in a democratic setup. And he visualized, he was cautioning. So therefore, the Ambedkarism as an ideology is the only hope to make this society much heading towards to constitutional framework, or even in the sense, whatever the ideas, that the preamble which talks about the ideas, this is only hope. One may say, what I'm arguing, that yes, every ism has been experimented till now. And there was backlash. I'm not saying that completely failed. There was a backlash. There were partly it is successful or not. Even maybe we need to experiment with Ambedkar or Ambedkarism, not Ambedkarism. And one need to witness it. Therefore, who is afraid of Ambedkar and Ambedkarism today? That is a very important question. I will come back to that later on. So, then again, unlike the other social reformers, like of course, Pule, Narayan Guru, Periyar, Ramaswamy, Naikar, who are considered influence, who are very much influenced on Ambedkar. So therefore, Ambedkar, all these social reformers, Savitribai Phule, there are any number of, Fatima Sheikh, but Ambedkar's, because of certain advantages of Western liberal, went abroad, got all kinds of things, he was in a better position to, and also these people had a lot of influence on him to shape the ideas of human rights. So Ambedkar took advantage of the modernity and the transition of the society during the freedom struggle and applied his thoughts to achieve his goals. So I considered Ambedkar's contribution to the human rights discourse as creative, original, historical, theoretical, practical, and concrete. And this can be witnessed in different, rights which we would be discussing. Now, well, when we look into political rights, Ambedkar believed that political mobilization through education and awareness alone help untouchables, not only untouchables, but also I am putting it much more wider. Let us say that untouchability has has ended. Okay, what he says that the political mobilization through education and awareness alone help untouchables or many other marginalized groups, that includes women, minorities, religious minorities, and representation in different forms. The political representation is increasingly becoming a concern. At that point of time, he was talking about yes, representation towards the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. But later on, representation for women, representation of different caste groups, though there is no substantial idea of representation through constitutional mechanism. But yes, informally, there are many groups who are trying to demand representation, their own representation in the different bodies, political bodies or any. So in the absence of social and economic power, gaining political power is the only way to secure or regain their lost self-respect. So why women are fighting for 50%, though they are 50% of population, but they're not getting the patriarchal parliamentary system, where male dominant misogynistic parliamentary system is yet to say that 50% of seats need to be reserved to gender. I mean, there might be many people who may say no, we don't believe in reservations, or we have our own agency to function. But in a hierarchical society where representation becomes a very important role, it plays an important role in achieving, realizing social and economic power. But what happened? No, even after the nominal representation, therefore, the Polak Act and Gandhi's attempt to tamper Ambedkar's dual representation and all these things becomes irrelevant today, because the representatives who are in the parliament and assemblies, they're not speaking, they're not representing the communities who are suffering, who are really not able to enjoy the basic fundamental rights. And I'm so sorry to say this, as a citizen of this country, I feel very ashamed that when the esteemed Prime Minister saying that he is guaranteeing 80,000 crore ration for next 5 years, that means see the range of poverty which is flourishing in our country. 75 years of independence, that we should have reduced these inequalities and make people to feel proud and feel dignified when it comes to their income levels. So this whole objective of this political power is to cause social and economic reforms. Did we really achieve that? How corporatization is really helping among the top rich people of the globe is five, within that five are from India. So so therefore what he says that democracy is more than a form of government. There is a purpose. It's not only it's not only form of the government. It is in its absence of stratification of society into classes, individuals' freedom and interests are protected. For example, democracy is to bring about the revolutionary changes in the social and economic life of the people without any bloodshed. He was talking about how one should not use violence as a means to achieve certain things. Therefore, he says that without any bloodshed, one needs to fight against the system. Democratic struggle, constitutional struggle, through constitutionalism. To what extent it is being successful or not, it all depends. To what extent we are really electing the right representatives. At the end of the day, the vote is being completely controlled by the liquor mafia, and it's some kind of money. Maybe the certain societies are certain regions are different. But if you see the idea of electoral politics, which we are going to witness in another a week or 10 days, the entire political system is being completely ruined. Electoral political system has been ruined. I will come to that much slightly later. So Ambedkar, what he did in this system, what he felt that there is a caste, there is gender, there is all kinds of hierarchical system. The conditions which require for the democracy, such as community of purpose. Is there any community of purpose? Community is divided. There is no any community of humanity. We are completely into hate. We hate religious minorities. We hate untouchables. I mean, we means I put in the larger framework of Brahminical caste patriarchal system. And when community of purpose is missing, that means there is no, the basic idea of democracy is to work for community of purpose. And if we don't work for community of purpose, that means democracy is not meaningful. And design for welfare. From 38, 39, 40 of the Constitution talks about, wealth should not be concentrated in few hands. Therefore, that's what the example which I was giving, that, few people, the rich they are becoming rich and the poor are becoming poor. And the desire for welfare from the state is completely shrinking. What is welfare? Just ration. Distribute ration. Welfare is to guarantee health, education, and also guarantee partly employment, guarantee dignified life. This is what? The welfare of, environment, clean environment. In Delhi, we suffocate, 5 months with pollution. Okay, in the massive expansion, massive urbanization, massive development discourse is causing towards to all kinds of distress. So, and the third thing which he also mentions is loyalty of public ends. Is there any left loyalty towards to public ends? We are completely towards to corporate, private, institutions rather than the public institutions, public ends. We don't have much. And if you see, and mutuality of cooperation is very necessary for democracy. If we don't work with a mutual consent, and therefore, if it doesn't exist, his fundamental question was, does it exist in India? Does it exist in India? If it's not existing, then why it is not existing? Now, how to challenge, how to face those challenges? He believed in political democracy, which is useless until unless it is accompanied by, as I already mentioned, social and economic democracy. What does he mean by that? Social democracy means, somewhere do we really treat others as equals? Therefore, that the idea of equality is deeply embedded in this democratic framework. Do we respect, the male misogynistic, dominant bodies? Do they respect, the presence of women in offices or even in public spaces? Patriarchy. You see that how caste dominance, operates when it comes to discrimination. In fact, I have worked, on caste discrimination in Indian universities, and one of the universities which was my sample is also from Kerala. I don't want to name the name of the university because I didn't name anywhere the universities which I worked. 10 universities I have studied caste discrimination in Indian universities. Why, our Dalit, SC, ST, OBCs are the victims of discrimination. How they are becoming the victims within and are they are ending their own life, or they are being institutional murders. And I don't want to bring that now. So, somewhere this social democracy, are we really treating other, religious minorities equal? Probably down south is not a much problem. If you look back into north, you can see every day hate on religious minorities. The hate is imbibed in the minds of the people through religion, through bigotism, and therefore this is very dangerous. It's very dangerous. Right to life, which is fundamental right, is indeed danger. And of course, economic democracy. As I already mentioned, if 80 crore people is being guaranteed for ration, I don't want to give any much more example than this, that how economically we are not in a position to become equals. And number of, you see, you take unemployment. And in much newspapers, for the past 1 week, which is coming, IIT Madras, IIT Bombay, they are not able to accommodate their own students. 35 to 45% of students, who are outgoing, they are not getting any placements. Now, what is happening? How economic democracy can be achieved? Corporatization of every system where private ownership is being, and who are these private owners? They're all people who are wealthy and filthy. The filthy rich is becoming controlling the entire corporates, and these corporates are determining the politics. And therefore, they're least bothered about economic progress of the most marginalized, and even who really require from even the casteist framework. Within that, okay, even let us put it socially dominant castes within quotes, they are poor among them also. How do we address this? And it clearly reflected how, if we don't achieve that, how one can, understand the transformation of the society, or even the existence of, whoever, Stan Swami. I would like to give an example. Stan Swami, who stood for rights of the poor, of the tribal, has been kept in jail. He was killed by the state. Ambedkar relied heavily on state and constitutional methods. Because he knew that society doesn't accept any kind of demand or any kind of request. Forget about demand. If any Dalit or if any tribal or even any other marginalized group goes towards to the dominant group and request for any kind of support, do you think that these dominant communities set up will welcome them and extend support? No. So therefore he felt that it is the state and it is the constitutional method which is very much important for the deprived communities. Deprived communities are putting it in a larger field. Every time I am not going to explain. State upholds the rights of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, free speech and free exercise of belief and religion. Are we able to really enjoy that? The word secularism has been removed, is being attempted to remove, and some elected representatives has distributed the constitution preamble by removing the idea of secularism in the newly opened parliament. And you know how the parliament building in Delhi has been inaugurated by bringing the Hindu dharma into the parliament system, which Ambedkar had a major problem. He said that, let us remember this. Ambedkar was warning, if Hinduism becomes the ruling system, that the society will become, will be in menace. And what we are witnessing today is that state has a provision, has a positive role in removing socio-economic and political inequalities by ensuring safeguards of minorities and downturns. So therefore he believed in state. He thought that state is the only institution where you can go and at least put forward, and therefore he brings representation. And he wants representatives to fight. We are representing our brothers and sisters who are looking towards to us from each and every corner, that these educated people will do something for our welfare. But what is happening today? Are we really, of course, I'm not questioning, the credibilities of our people who are here, and are we able to really go back and, to look back and see what is happening and to fight with the system? to even educational institutions like reservations or any number of things that how many of our own community who really open up for a debate and who fight for protecting these rights anyway. So in the Indian Constitution, I don't want to include, talk about anything on fundamental rights. We all have basic, things like, rights like, abolition of disabilities and rights, guarantees, all these things I don't want to give much more because, we are all known. Now, therefore, Ambedkar places the safeguards, how safeguards in the form of rights in the final of the Constitution of Free India. It declares would be acceptable to all. True and adequate representation in all legislatures, central and provincial. This is particularly in the context of scheduled castes. But that need to be extended towards two different groups over a period of time. So therefore, what he says when he was talking about democracy, democracy is not only in a form but also has a purpose. It will keep on changing. 75 years of democracy, what we are witnessing, it is not only a form but also changes, and accordingly we need to. So at that point of time when he was arguing for scheduled caste representation in different bodies. But now in present context, what we need to argue is that we need to argue representation of different groups, different communities, different marginalized, through an adequate representation, executive, central and provincials. Provision for election through separate electorates, which he was not able to achieve. And adequate representation in public services. Representation in public services now. The entire public services are being under threat. Now, entire public sector is under threat. No reservations. Now, if you very very smartly, state is not saying that we are against reservation. What they are saying, they are closing down the public institutions where implementation of reservations doesn't become compulsory. It doesn't arise at all. So therefore, this becomes this is becoming a new norm. Provision for new and separate settlements, all these things which he was proposing, that this is what. But now it is becoming impossible. So state is an essential political organization for the welfare of the society need to be functional. And to what extent it is becoming welfare state? No, the state is increasingly becoming authoritarian state rather than a welfare state. Any form of dissent, any form of minimal demand, if you say that we need scholarships, you will be looked as a antisocial, which is a fundamental basic education. And you see how public institutions has been completely scattered. You see how new educational policy, new national educational policy within course national, which I consider it as new exclusion policy, new exit policy. I don't call it as new national education policy. It's a policy which gives provision for exiting. Those who have money, you study. Those who don't have money, you don't study. You exit. You get a certificate. So you become a mechanic. You become a small thing, and then settle yourself. So there is no point of talking until you get higher education, and get a good job. And 60% of cut of UGC now of funds makes much more worse the situation. So therefore, those who have money, they can, the colleges and the universities are promoting self-financed courses where SC, ST, OBC boys and of course girls, because of the patriarchal system, if they don't have money, they will not send them to schools for their families. So therefore, they are the victims of this new kind of thing. But of course, so therefore, welfare state, which once upon a time had the welfare as an idea, now it is shrinking. State is to uphold the rights of every subject of life, liberty, and happiness, as I already mentioned. State is to remove socio-political and economic inequalities. Instead of removing socio-economic inequalities, state itself is becoming an agent to promote social and economic inequalities. And you see, we are worse than Bangladesh. Sorry to say this. On certain parameters. State, we all know that because we are all into the WhatsApp university now. We don't believe in data. We believe in WhatsApp, groups. Sometimes I see in Facebook Of course, Facebook, I use it in a very constructive way that, how it will also, give some information because these days no newspaper is covering any data. Sometimes the interested groups within the Facebook or WhatsApp, they send some data which is really, significant, important. No news debates, no newspapers will, cover these, things. Sometimes, So therefore, the state protection of downtrodden minorities and their rights is very important concern, and the state is not playing its role. Educational rights and many other rights which Ambedkar spoke about. Now another 5 minutes, if time permits, 5 to 10 minutes, I'll just quickly cover on social and cultural rights, and then I will stop so that we can have some discussion. Without talking about social and cultural rights, talking about political rights is meaningless. Therefore, Ambedkar held that untouchability, and also I can extend this patriarchy and the religious fundamentalism, and the permanent handicap on the path of progress. At that point of time, see, if Ambedkar would have been alive, things would have been different today. But at that point of time, he had a hope on democracy because, in liberal societies where what he studied and he comes with a baggage of liberating the marginalized groups, bringing these ideas in a constitutional framework. He wants the marginalized groups, particularly untouchables, to depend on their social strength rather than any other, like political rights which are not permanent. The political representation, they are not represented. So what he advocated that, agency of your own agency, the women, your own agency, that is their own agency. Religious minorities, their own agency. So, therefore, what he says that the social strength is very important. But at the same time, he was cautioning that all these social groups who are exploited communities within the dominant Brahminical caste discourse and religious discourse, they need to come together. They need to come together to fight against these fundamentalists. Rights in a society are protected not by law but by the social and moral conscience of the society. You may come any number of rights. You may come with, you have Domestic Violence Act, you have, SC/ST Atrocities Act, whatnot. Many acts are coming. But state is not worried to implement strictly about those acts, but we are worried about, Citizenship Act. See how dubious state is. State is completely dubious, because it doesn't want to talk about the basic social challenges which every day, what people are, suffering. But they want their own political laws to be implemented first, rather than the laws that are being over a period of time with all kinds of social struggles, social movements. That state is not ready to, do that. Can state, any political party today dare to say that if we come to power, we will abolish caste? Because they play politics on caste. And the same communal parties which talks about, religion, which talks about, caste, whenever it fits into their interest, they will bring into their own interest rather than really making these things to be present. So therefore, recognition of these rights by social consciousness, rights will be safe and secure. So socially conscious, one must be socially conscious. One should treat other equal. Until unless if you don't treat other equal, do you really need any law? Whether it is religion, class, gender. So, in a very highly utopian kind of, Begumpura, what Begum makes, framework, seeking Begumpura, it talks about, the happy society. And we know in the index of happiness, how India is so vulnerable because of all these kind of things. So if fundamental rights are opposed by the community, no law, no parliament, no judiciary can guarantee these rights. Very important thing. Constitution has been burnt on Delhi streets. The state was quiet. The institutions like police and judiciary kept quiet. Imagine the constitution, it has been burnt on Delhi streets. What? I mean, suppose if communities started opposing, that there is a serious attempt where, the constitution will be, tampered. I'm sure that it cannot be tampered. And we are all here to, as an fellow Ambedkarites, to protect the framework of constitutional democracy, an Ambedkarite constitution, where the communal fascists cannot even touch. But they are trying to, they are attempting, they are giving an attempt through their political power, the arrogance of, the majoritarianism. We should be very vigilant about it. So the communities need to be educated, communities need to be trained, communities need to be, engaged to follow democratic principles. We should not give up. We should not say that, okay, some other is not getting into a debate and we should not. There would be a tension in the society that we need to engage, we need to talk. What he says that human beings doesn't become a society by living in a physical proximity. By living in a physical proximity doesn't become a society. Similarity in habits, beliefs, and thoughts is not enough to constitute a human being into society. Habits and beliefs may be same and differ, but it cannot be identified into one integral society. Multicultural society, we have different food habits. And the most disgusting debate that is happening on TV news today is that some politician had fish before one day of Navratra, and therefore the Prime Minister going and campaigning, saying that the majority, the emotions of majority has been tampered at the time of Navratra. Why? People have their own food habits. Let them eat. Why you are trying to bring everything into this? So food habits and everything, is it common? Dravidian land, their food habits are common, different. And the other part of the country, food habits are different. Non-vegetarianism, the hypocrisy of Indian society is that 85% of non-vegetarians talking about Indian society as a vegetarian society. What else you can say? The social right to eat my own food choice, right to have my own cultural belief without troubling any other. That is the fundamental thing. One meeting, when I attended some official meeting in Madhya Pradesh, they said that the government officially wrote instructed a circular saying that in official meetings you should not serve non-vegetarian food. See how the hypocrisy went to such a level. Anyway, so for Ambedkar, society is not about, and so that the individual and its individual has to subordinate himself or herself to society. It is because such subordination is for his or her betterment and only to the extent necessary. Only to some extent necessary. If you are surrendering your certain entitlements towards to the society, it is for your own welfare. He says that Indian society is based on caste system which has demarcative character of individual occupational specialization. Science is 75 years, science has not guaranteed anything, or it haven't reached to toilet. It reached to moon, and we have clapped ourselves on TV debates that we have successfully went towards to moon. But the science has completely failed to liberate human beings who are still cleaning the toilets of this country. Manual scavenging, people are dying in manual ports. This system, promoted exploitation, discrimination, and subjugation, which practiced by the so-called socially dominant, privileged castes within quotes. And the arrogance of this caste need to be constantly questioned, challenged. If the Hindu organization Varna Dharma is harmonious, egalitarian, and having a component of human dignity, the need for human rights doesn't exist at all. He says that. He says, if all these, whatever, dharmas or things which we are talking, if if it considers the component human dignity, egalitarian and harmonious values, do we really need to think about human rights? Do we really need to debate on that? He says that since our society is caste-ridden, rights violation has become inevitable. And therefore, he says that Hinduism is inimical to equality, antagonistic to liberty, opposed to freedom. Therefore, the laws which are sources of the denial of rights to the Shudras or even marginalized groups, which he was, trying to, explain everything. Property, education. People say that, why do you need education? Because you belong to this caste. Because you belong to this gender, you don't need education. Anyway, so division of labor, not only labor but also labor. He says that as long as caste in India does exist, the caste Hindus will hardly intermingle or have any social intercourse or intermingling kind of thing with outside Hindus or religious groups. To emancipate scheduled caste, Ambedkar remind the importance of physical, political, and moral backgrounds. Lastly, which I would like to talk about, the idea of social justice, and then I will stop. How one can understand? Maybe a number of examples are there. I am not able to give. But his philosophy of social justice gives importance to religious freedom. To him, every individual is free to choose his or her own religion and should have right to form religious associations. Dharmapasi, what is happening? Dharmapasi, but these people who come back from this thing, but which caste they belong, nobody knows. Why people are converting into Buddhism every year. And it is another matter, Hinduism trying to appropriate Buddha as 10th or 11th avatar, and making Buddhism as part of Hinduism, which is a very sickening part. Honor and equality in the society can be ensured by equal guarantees and equal opportunities. And there is no equal opportunities and equal guarantees, that honor and equality can never be from the family. I would like to say that, including families, marginalized communities and their families. Patriarchy operates in Dalit families also. And from there, the change need to be. It operates in family, it operates in educational institutions, it operates in universities, it operates in public places, everywhere, not only caste, gender, all kinds of things. So therefore, honor and equality is under severe threat. He says even though the human being have different capacities, different choices and functions, and yet every one of them should find an equal place in the society. So everybody should have that kind of space that need to be attained. So therefore, institutions and society need to be constantly, engaged and be questioned. He opposed any form of inequality on any grounds because it degenerates human dignity, respect, and values, which ultimately hampers the discourse of rights. And lastly, what I would like to mention is that how Ambedkar tried to see that equality can be achieved only when a set of, when one can attain, one can challenge the hierarchical discourse and ensure that, the eradication of caste system, because caste will remain until Hindu religion remains. And therefore, Hindu religion is becoming the everyday context of norm. You have seen that how the North India celebrating the Hindu fundamentals. If not entire North India, but still it is mostly the Hindi belt. So therefore, the discourse of rights, you see that any discourse of rights are not happening. I'm happy that young students like you have taken initiative to have a debate on these issues, and I'm sure that you will be leading a successful campaign for a social change, campaign for protecting political democracy, and also campaign for the basic fundamental rights. And as Ambedkarites, what I would really request, this is my last statement or point which I would like to mention, that he said that there is a political right that which equates everybody. The right to vote. My dear Ambedkarites, let us keep all egos and other things aside for time being. We need to come, unite, compromise on certain things to defeat the communal fascist forces in coming elections. I'm not campaigning here for anybody. Remember, if we don't do that, if we don't go back to our villages, if we don't go back to our relatives, and if we don't go back to the grassroot villages, we may lose the idea of or the essence of democracy, human rights, any number of values that was promoted or propagated by Dr. B. R. Ambedkar. And the only thing what we need to do is that we don't have much more time. We have only 40 days left in our plate. Only 40 days. I request everybody, every young student here, please close down your books, close down your research. Or even if classes are happening, go to the class. After the class, engage with people, talk to people, go back, talk to people, expose the truths of this hypocritic, casteist fundamentalists, communal fundamentalists, and let us protect democracy. Thank you so much for asking me to be part of this discourse. I hope I try to do justice for the topic which has been given to me. Thank you once again for Ambedkar Study Circle, Government Law College Trivandrum, asking me to be part of this. I stop here.
Thank you so much, sir. I think the floor can be open for an interactive session or any comments. Any comment on the talk session?
Someone was raising hand, I don't know in between, but the person is ready to ask the question or not, I don't know. But anyway.
I guess Atya had not.
No, that's fine, no issues. But my only concern is that we need to develop the culture of questioning. Especially, it is not that you have to completely agree with my ideas or my propositions. So therefore, if anybody has any even problem of my talk, let us talk. That's where one need to have a debate and deliberation.
Firstly, so thank you so much for this eye-opener talk. Secondly, sir, what I wanted to ask is that I completely concur on the point that when regarding the ideals that Ambedkar left behind, they have to be practiced as a way of life in households. Only then will the social consciousness be developed. But at the same time, what I feel as a citizen is that the mediocrity which comes is attached, the mediocrity attached to occupations is enforced by the caste system. Now, when a person maybe sometimes chooses not to be educated or to stick to occupations like being a sweeper or a cleaner, I feel that society has to give the same respect to them even when they choose not to, go further, to escalate further in terms of heights in their life. So I feel that even when you're not ready to, maybe because of your personal choice, you're not ready to grow in life, the caste system inherently places this sense of mediocrity and treats them lower to other people. So what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, okay, yeah, look, Asia, if I'm pronouncing rightly, look, yes, in every society, these forms of occupation exist, but not in a form of, manual scavenging, okay? Scavenging through machines, scavenging through different kind of scientific ways, So therefore, the dignity of labor, what you are talking about, the dignity of labor need to be respected. Okay, there could be people who may not be interested, not necessarily, but there could be people who say that okay, we are happy with what we are doing, so we may not necessarily go for a upliftment. It's over a period of time. Things see, for example, there is a wonderful book which I forgot, but this is something on the community which burns the dead bodies on the Ganges, like Kashi. So what one educated youth among this community, even this entire community feels that okay, no, we are very powerful. Without us, these rituals cannot be completed. All these things, but 3-4 educated among this community, they try to slowly challenge, slowly try to educate them, try to open up the debates within the community that look, it is not that it is necessary, and this is a myth that is being created that without us, body cannot attain moksha, XYZ. So the dignity of labor, I would like to give one wonderful example. I went to Sweden for some talk on Dalit rights itself. So my host and me, we both went, and my host said that let us eat quickly something, and then go, because in the home which they accommodated me, they don't give any food. So we both went to a small eating outlet, and we sat, and after a couple of minutes, another gentleman came and he wished hello, and he said, he asked, do we mind he sitting there? We said, no, we don't mind, please. So for a period of time of 5 minutes, we started interacting, and so he asked what we are, and I also asked what he is. He said he's a sewer employee. He does the same work which what the manual scavengers do. I mean, sewer employee. This is the dignity of labor, and he doesn't even touch anything with his hands. Everything is operated mechanically. What I'm saying is that how long we can make this system, until unless we make this system survive, people might be willing to continue, but until unless we try to change the system, like for example recognition, which is very important thing, the dignity of labor. I asked my student, one of my students, when we were debating in the class on caste, I said that manual scavenging. He said, no, we are giving money, so therefore people come and clean. I said, look, I hope I asked this student, I hope you don't mind. I will ask you a counter question. So he said, yes. I asked that, look, I have a toilet in my house. Which is, in that context, I'm trying to frame, not that necessarily I want to humiliate any individual. I said, I'll pay 1 lakh. Is there anyone who could come and, other than a CST, who could come and clean my toilet? So there was no answer for that. What I mean to say is that, somewhere that the dignity of labor need to be recognized, but recognizing by not cleaning the feet. The Prime Minister went and cleaned the feet of, manual scavengers at Mahakumbh, and say that, you are all will go to, heaven. If that is the case, then what? The people who doesn't clean toilets will go to hell. See, what I'm saying is that, dignity of labor is very important. How many I have seen the movie The Great Indian Kitchen. I don't know how many our professors or our other people they see, and see that, not that, women need to be worked, how democratizing things need to be within the working space need to be respected. Therefore, I think, the question is completely valid. Yes, like Safai Karmachari Andolan, Bejwada Wilson, who is campaigning for many decades that, let us make manual free kind of, scavenging. But state doesn't have that kind of, determination. And also people are very happy to go and shit on the roads because they think that, there are people who come and clean our shit. So therefore that is the problem. So therefore the problem is deeply embedded in the, mind and culture.
Exactly, sir. I completely agree, because we still have websites where caste-based marriage is being enforced. We have Nair matrimony and all kinds of matrimony websites. Yeah. we see how politicians they may exhibit hypocrisy by preaching and casteless in their public speeches, and we can see the way they treat the servants at home. So,
Ashia, you read Prime Minister Narendra Modi's book, Karma Yogi. He justifies caste system, and he justifies human manual scavenging. So this is the tragedy of the society, and we have people who preach outside, as you rightly said, and they practice inside. I'm happy you raised this question.
thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Hasian. Thank you so much, sir, for those commendable discussions. Any more questions?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah,
Super,
sorry.
thank you so much for such a wonderful session. And my question is, as you are a person who works on the grassroots
Can you
movements,
be a little bit louder, Swati? Can you be a little bit louder?
is it audible, sir?
Whether my system is having a problem, no, I'm on full mode. But anyway, I'm able to listen.
Okay.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Now you're audible, sir?
Yeah, please go ahead. I can.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful session, first of all. And as you are a person who works on the grassroots movements, in your opinion, for the personal experience, how far these two concepts, that is democracy and human rights, are available or reached to the Dalits of India in reality?
Well, okay, yeah. See, it reached to some extent. If we are talking about issues, if we are debating, or if we are able to walk on streets with some kind of dignity, or any other, we are asserting our own rights through constitutional provisions. I don't say completely we have failed, but it is very less. What I would like to say is that it is yet to achieve more. It is yet to achieve more. We think that institutions are democratic. We think family is democratic. We think relationship between two individuals is democratic. But no. Undemocratic values prevails at every sphere. But it's an everyday exercise, everyday negotiation. We feel that, okay, what is there? I mean, yes, we have constitution. Yes, we have some natural rights, political rights, civil rights, all kinds of rights. So therefore, it is my interest, in the interest of me, or in the interest of community, or in the interest of nation, we need to accept and promote the discourse of democratic things. I'm sure that it is yet to reach towards to the downtrodden. But yes, right to vote, right to representation, certain things has been guaranteed, but it is up to us how to really make it much more functional. Constitution is there, we need to make it function. So therefore, I will say the politics of presence is important rather than the politics of silence. What happens? Many of us keep, of us means, of course, I'm respecting you and many others who are sitting here in this, board or in this, room. But until unless if we don't make these things to be functional, so the silence is more problematic. So if we keep quiet, people will think that everything is fine. Democracy is absolutely great on paper. So let us say that look, democracy is good, but it is yet to have more positive things. So until unless that's what that's what Ambedkar said, that politically we are equal, socially and economically we are not equal. Even after 75 years, still we are talking about democracy. Still we are talking about what percentage democracy has reached towards to grassroots level. As a person, what I have seen is that, yes, go back to village, people are conscious, and they are being misled. And institutions are partly democratized. If we are able to organize this, probably, I don't know, after 24 election, we can have such kind of meetings or not, we don't know. Whether these democratic deliberations will be there or not, we don't know. So therefore, it's a continuous struggle. When a poor person asking for a ration card is a struggle. A person who doesn't get, pension, old age pension is a struggle. A student who doesn't get scholarship is a struggle. So in a democratic setup, we need to be politically conscious. or even morally conscious, constitutional morality, what Ambedkar talks about. So that if we are morally conscious, I think we will certainly make democracy functional. I hope I answered your question, Swati.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Any more questions? I would like to ask a question.
Please.
So, Ambedkar advocated measures that uphold the dignity and empower marginalized communities. But as you said, the guarantee of relation for the next 5 years by Prime Minister, which is only a temporary relief. They may not foster any long-term empowerment or address the systemic factors which may contribute to the poverty and marginalization. So, how can this be addressed, or what is the solution from an Ambedkar perspective?
See, look, Veena, what Ambedkar said, right to vote is a very important tool. People will say a number of things, So therefore, I will give you a ration, I will guarantee this, I will guarantee that. After that, they will forget, because 5 years, therefore, Ambedkar, what he proposed, right to recall. It was very important to concept what Ambedkar said. Perhaps he's the only one who introduced it in the constitutional debates and said that, not even we have to wait till 5 years. And if these political groups, let me put it in a very brutal manner, the political unrepresentative groups who takes over our votes, who doesn't have accountability towards the welfare of the people, Ambedkar said right to recall, which no politician or no political reformer at that point of time was ready to accept, because they know that suppose if right to recall is there with people, among people, suppose if a political representative of a particular constituency who doesn't work properly and who doesn't function properly, people will have, it is not that, in parliament we have, no confidence motion. It is highly, manufactured in such a way that, government will, opposition will demand for this, and then, the majoritarian government will buy, people, even if they are dissent, things are going on. But he also had doubts with all this political system. When he said, people need to, who voted and elected, also can have right to recall them. Sorry, I'm jumping into Hindi. You are not representing my cause, so get back to us. You recall and say that, you are not fit to lead us. And all this political class united, and they were so scared that, if this would have become reality, okay, today's democratic politics would have been completely different. So therefore, still what we need to do is that any political representative who come to your doorstep, question them, say that what the hell you people have done towards to the most marginalized communities, and more it is needed in the northern belt. I'm not saying that south is completely clean. So questioning, and you see that how polite they will be. No, beta, no brother or sister, we will try to ensure all kinds of things. These are all farce. But of course, what we need to do is that we can also, not only we can make, see, one interesting formula which I would like to give to all other younger people who are here. We need to believe in not only politics of winning, but also politics of making our parties to lose. Okay, if my vote is trying to lose some authoritarian regime, I don't care compromising my certain values for 2024 election. After that I might need to fight with the person whom I have voted. I don't care. But the present authoritative regime need to be thrown out, especially in coming Lok Sabha elections. So, right to recall Ambedkar, what he said. was the only remedy. I think perhaps it is high time, probably we need to bring back this right to recall debate into the discourse. Then only I think, whether it is good or bad, let us start this campaign also. Most probably, I'm happy that you asked this question. Everywhere I'm going to say this, and mostly whomever I have access, that in coming after 2024 elections, we need to make it as a project to make right to recall. And all these politicians who doesn't have moral conscience to rule us, they need to be taught lesson by bringing this right to recall. I think it's highly this thing. I don't know even at that point of time that they were not allowing. But if people are fed up with this kind of politics, probably right to recall is one solution for that.
Thank you so much, sir. Any more questions, or we can move on to the yeah. Any more questions from anyone, or else we can wind up the session, right, sir?
Maybe we can stop, I guess.
Sure, sir. So can we move on with the vote of thanks? So thank you so much, sir, for this enlightening session, and I would like to thank you so much. When I called you, you were like you had your own busy schedule, but still you make time for us, for the students of Government Law College Trivandrum. You reached till here, like you had the access till Kerala, and of course it was very inspiring, and so your insights had provided us with the deeper understanding of the crucial issues, which is even relevant for the elections that will happen within a week. And your dedication in providing and promoting the inclusive principles is truly commendable. And we appreciate your effort in guiding us towards a more equitable and just society. So thank you so much, sir, for your valuable contribution.
Thank you, Veena. I keep coming Kerala because I'm a half Malayali. So every year I come to Kerala. So when I come, I'll certainly catch up with you people, and then we can have more deliberations. Thank you so much for calling me, and I request everybody to be as part of the politics of presence, and I wish you good luck. And if anything in Delhi, if you need any academic help, please feel free to contact me. And which if I can do, really I can completely extend my assistance. I would say support. Thank you so much. And Devi.
Thank you so much. Thank you.